现在我们就开始今天
The most interesting part of today's program. All the three of you have agreed that we're welcoming this era of VR as an emerging type of a media, and you are all heavyweight players in this new landscape. I talked with Alvin in private. It was our idea that we can be highly interactive and ask and answer some futuristic questions. To kick off, if I may ask the three panelists to give our audience a specific definition of a VR, because you shared with us the cases and shared with us what VR stands for. But can you give us a personal take on this? What VR means to you personally? Is it a media, a format of content, or VR represents a new platform in the future? Shall we begin by you?
Stanley and I actually talked about that during our presentations. So I'll be brief in my answer. I think VR is a new way of interaction. All kinds of interaction can be considered media. We believe that VR is going to be included in every part of your life. We did actually talk a lot about the definition of VR, but I would like to say it in a very poetic way. Virtual reality is like the ultimate dreaming machine. It enables you to see and experience anything you want to see and experience. It involves all your five senses as well as your whole body to experience everything in the virtual world. I don't really think I have anything to add. We are a content producer, and we believe that the virtual reality is considered the final media, because in the 3D virtual media, you could put in any kind of older media such as text, sound, and images. A virtual reality is the ultimate machine because it can control all your senses. It could create resonance in you. And today we can say in a more direct way that the advertisement we see, TV or movie ads, are often two-dimensional. But now it can be six-dimensional, or of six facets. You could actually feel these things in the VR videos. So VR could improve your marketing capacities and increase the values of your marketing efforts through different measures and from different perspectives. Thank you very much to three panelists. I would like to move on to my second question. You shared with us a number of very good examples and case studies, but some people might say that these examples are quite similar to single machine games or content. So my next question is, will virtual reality have a social side? Can we use virtual reality machines to share things with my friends or interact with our friends? Because this is something that marketers are very interested in, whether they have a social side. I believe that naturally VR has a communication social side. A few days ago, I was at an event, and a friend told me that I have a 300-degree camera. He took a picture and sent it to my WeChat account. I could see it when I have a helmet on. So in this way, you can share with us anything that it takes picture of. Many games can be multiplayer, dual player. So these virtual reality games can be played by several people. You could have a group of people play cards in virtual reality or have meetings. You could have an avatar so that all these avatars could take any shape and sit by a meeting table for a conference. On your phone and on your computer, there are many ways of social communication, but they can all be used in virtual reality. In many other countries, there are companies like Outer Space and High Fidelity, the creator of Half-Life, that are involved in virtual reality social communication. Now, the founder wanted to establish a second life in VR. Everyone can have an avatar. You could customize the qualities of the avatar. You could change your gender, change your species, skin color, etc. You could travel to anywhere in the world from the comfort of your home, and you are connected to the same virtual world where you could interact with each other, play games, shop. You could do many things that you could do in the reality or that you could never have done in reality. We are a VR entertainment content provider. We created Esplanada VR game. It was shown in an event in Shanghai. If you put on a headphone, you are you can be connected to our colleague back in Beijing, and you could work with this colleague in Beijing to complete the game. You can talk to this colleague from Shanghai. This is a cartoon game, so you see a big banana which could wave at you. So this, I believe, VR interaction and social aspects are going to be very important. We visited GDC and we saw many demos of multiplayer VR games because it's crucial for players to be able to interact with each other. VR is a relatively new thing. It's cost. It's really good value for money because many people will take out their phones and take pictures of people who are using VR because people find them very interesting and people want to share things that they find novel. So people now are really willing to share with other people these new things like the 360-degree photos in Mr. Wang's case. So many things could be done in a virtual world at a much lower cost, and I would say VR is the kind of media that is closest to reality. It could simulate all kinds of senses in the virtual world, and in the end, it could be a transportation material vehicle. It could actually transport you to anywhere, any place, anytime. So social is going to be a very important feature. Social would mean that you have to have a high penetration rate of the products that has to be used by large number of consumers. There are many reports about the sale volume of VR machines, and many people will say that in 3 to 5 years, VR machines are going to be mainstream. So based on your observations and insight, in your opinion, one, how long will it take for VR to become mainstream, especially in the Chinese market? Thank you for letting me answer the question first. Now, if we look at today's theme, we can look at a few attempts made by us. For example, we're involved in interstellar movie marketing, and we're working with a major e-commerce company to help them to introduce VR in their purchasing process. Now, we had a look at the 10 best cases of VR application shown by Stanley. Marketing is now offline mainly, so HTC is a good new way to introduce to marketing, and we could do a 360-degree viewing for brands and companies. In the future, as the devices become more stable, more sophisticated, and much lighter, maybe they will take the form of glass frames in the future. Then they could play an important role in marketing, as smartphones are now to marketing these days. Currently, we are seeing the transformation from offline to mobile to offline to online, and this transformation is also going to happen in VR. I agree. For our company, Noitom, at the 2C level, VR will take some time to become a mainstream product. It doesn't mean that everyone would have a VR device. It might be as popular as a PlayStation or Xbox. You have to be someone who is really into, for example, gaming, to own Xbox or PlayStation. They could sell tens of millions or hundreds of millions, and I think it's going to take around 5 years. In the process, there are a lot of challenges in terms of hardware, such as display, chip, calculating capacity, wireless transfer speed, etc. These are the bottlenecks that we have to address. We are currently working with company clients. We would work with commercial real estate developers. We would do experience stores, or would work with 4S stores on virtual reality solutions. We would bring the best VR experiences to our users so that they will have strong confidence in VR, and then they will be willing to get involved in VR B2C. If we start with B2C, maybe the experiences may be bad and we won't have any repeat customers. They will be disappointed in VR and will stop using VR in the future. So it's going to take around 5 years, right? What about Alvin? We could let a small select group be cool first. Now let's look at other sectors first. First, the computer sector. I bought my first PC in 1982. It shows how old are you. I bought the first mobile phone. So I experienced the emergence of these sectors. The computer sector took 30 years to plateau, and now the yearly sales volume keeps decreasing. It took mobile phones 9 years to peak and start to drop in sales volume. The quarterly sales volume starts to decline. But it takes mobile phones 5 years to surpass the sales volume of mobile phones, to surpass the sales volumes of PCs. So we can see that for every generation of new products, the curve becomes steeper. For example, take smartphones 5 years to overpass PCs. So perhaps for virtual reality, it will take 4 years to surpass the sales volume of smartphones. But VR in the future is going to be quite different from the VR we have now. I used to work in Intel, so I'm really familiar with the Moore's law. In 4 years' time, the capacities of VR machines could increase by 10 to 20 times. Maybe currently computers are more powerful, but in 4 years' time, the VR devices can be twice as powerful as a general computer. And in the future, they're going to be an accessory. They're going to have a modem and a processor, and they can be used together with a screen. And in the future, the smartphones is going to be much powerful than computers, and it's going to be cheaper. So can I say that in 4 years' time, people would stop using mobile phones and switch to virtual reality? In fact, the title of one of my slides is VR is going to be the last screen, but it might take 4 years, 5 years, and 6 years. It's debatable. I'm really happy to hear this prediction of 4 years, which is shorter than 5 years. Indeed, what you said is really inspiring. VR is the last screen, but AR colleagues might not agree. Well, we can always share the same screen, same final screen. VR and AR sure talk to each other. We could say that they are practically the same thing. In the future, the devices can be like a pair of glasses. When they are transparent, they are AR. When they are not transparent, they are VR. And you could change the transparency of these glasses at your will. So we are just moving toward the same goal from different directions. We do have a camera at the Hamlet, and it helps you to see what is around you in the real world through this camera recording. If we start with VR, we can have real products today. We have this advantage in terms of time. AI companies might have products in 3-4 years. They only have demonstrations these days. We really look forward to HTC's endeavor into AR so that you will be a dominant company, AR and VR. Then in this case, HTC will become the Chinese company that is dominant in the sector. In 2 to 3 years' time, we're going to see promote VR and AR rapidly at the same time. Stanley, is there anything you would like to talk about in terms of VR versus AR? I agree with what he said. We think there's just one thing, there are different stages, and they would take different routes, but the ultimate goal is the same.
I've got something to add here. In the past, when you interact with your computer, you sit in front of your desk and there is a big screen in front of your eyes. But now you put your mobile phone in your pocket and you hold it in your hand. Well, the most important message is going to be shared. Well, this is information sharing in front of your eyes, either on the desktop or in your hand. But now you have information sharing in front of your eyes, and you put information at a comfortable position. And this trend is just irreversible. I saw a question in the WeChat group. It was a good question, if I may ask you this question. Inside or outside China, for marketers, there's this very important issue of customer privacy or data privacy. There was a report about the discussions of VR development and the protection of a customer's private information. So do you have this concern? So from the perspective of brand owners or marketers, can we safely cooperate with you, be it ecosystem developer or content developer? How can you make us feel the peace of mind when you use our customer data? Let's say if it's a car, then the consumer might be interested in its engine component. And if they look at that engine part for a long period of time, then can we say he's highly interested and he's a possible lead, and we can contact this customer after his experience. So you're saying VR is a media, but VR can also be used to tap into the likes and dislikes and some other private information of the customers. Well, your concern is not unique to VR, because in the internet era, there is already the same concern. But the problem here now is whether you allow the users to control the data. If the customer says yes and entrusts you to use his data, then it's fine. For example, if they allow you to use his personal data, then in return you give them some vouchers, or you give them a price discount, or you offer them a better quality experience, then that's okay. So you need to find the right balancing point. I used to work at Baidu and Google for 10 years, at Baidu 5 years. I think I have something to share with you about this privacy question. At Baidu or Google, they have the same concern. When you did search, it involved a lot of private information. And they can use their machines to find out the keywords, and they can target advertisements based on your personal information. So they also already touched upon privacy issue. As Alvin said, you need a clear permission from your customers or users, and you need different level of privacy protection. For example, if you use incentives to encourage them to open up their private information, that's one approach. But in VR, the privacy is even more detailed. You can even track the biological information, biometrics, like the number of heartbeats, your eye movements, and so on and so forth. If we grasp this information, we can do even more targeted advertising or marketing. So you feel your concern is not unjustified. So we'll target our marketing on your physiological and psychological information. And we can even entice them. For example, they see an object, and you entice them, you cue them, and you can lead them up to the purchase of that product. So it also involves business ethics. Shaun, anything to add here? The current users of a VR, how they are using the VR technology now. Some foreign SDKs have already built this heat map. For example, they can figure out at which point the user's eyes stays for the longest length of time. So this data is both fragile and sensitive. So it's all about how you use this data. You need rules to guide the usage of this data. Because here we're studying the specific behaviors of consumers. It's more sensitive. I've asked all my questions, and if I may ask our audience and see if they have any questions. Do you have any questions for our panelists here on stage, especially tough questions?
Thank you. I can see that there's a lot of really great applications for this, both for personal use and for business use. Is there any concern about people becoming very insular if they use this too much? I was saying to Alice earlier, I can remember when Tomb Raider came out and my husband, he just disappeared for days playing this Tomb Raider game. And I just wonder what the impacts might be. Was that tough enough?
I'll give my opinion, and it does not represent the company's opinion. But I think that the more realistic an experience is, the more likely it is that you will create an impact, right, in terms of reliance and maybe over-reliance. Right? But I think with every technology, you have positive and negative uses of it. So in terms of people using it in the wrong way, there's definitely that's going to happen. There will be people who have addictive personalities and
really
they won't be able to control themselves. But in terms of the value it can create, the benefit it can create, it definitely outweighs the small negatives. And for a lot of people who, let's say, doesn't have the means to travel or the means to go and have an education in some really high-end university, you're giving them the ability to transport themselves to these new places, to be around new people, and to have new experiences and to give them happiness, right? From that perspective, if you can deliver happiness to millions or hundreds of millions of people, that's a good thing.
Yeah. Hi. Very, very interesting concepts and ideas here for virtual reality. But I think many, many years ago, if I'm not mistaken, 20 years ago was the first time I saw a VR concept in a gaming area. What do you think has led to a very slow growth of VR towards a more consumer-centric environment? While it's interesting that a lot of you were saying that it might take 3 to 4 or 5 years that VR might be big, but I think it took already I think almost 3 decades to make it mainstream.
50 years.
Yeah,
5 decades.
Or longer. So is one of the reason VR being very hard to get specific inputs from the user? What are your thoughts on this one? Like for example, cell phones are very easy to input because you can type in, or computers you have keyboard to input what the consumer wants. Is this one reason why VR has taken a long time to make it on the mainstream?
All right, so here's the deal. I actually studied VR 24 years ago in the first research lab on VR in the US. And at that point, we were using $150,000 machines that came from the military, right? So I know exactly what you're talking about and what you probably experienced 20 years ago. Just like every technology that's successful, there's a brewing period where the conditions have to get to the right point where it starts to explode, right? And the cell phone actually was also a 40 or 50-year-old product, but it started to take off, about 7, 8, 9 years ago when the iPhone came out. And PC actually came from mainframes, which is like 80 years ago, and it took 50 years for it to become from the vacuum tubes into what they are today, right? So having a technology taking time is actually very normal. But when it takes off, at real innovation, when it takes off in a big way, right? So this is, I think the conditions that's possible now is what's making it really take off the last few years, is the fact that processing power has gone to a certain place, graphics capabilities have gone to a certain space, the availability of content in terms of 3D modeling has gone to a certain place. The cost availability now to a price point where it can be affordable for general use versus hundreds of thousands of dollars has made it to a certain place. The technology related to display technology in terms of power usage, size, density, realism have all gotten to a certain place where now your body and your eyes and your brain cannot distinguish in a real way between what's real and what's virtual, right? All of these things have taken to a place where now it can take off. And in the next few years, it will be even more so, right? Because right now, even when we're at like 1 or 2K type of resolution, for you to really get to full immersion, you probably need about 4K per eye, right? At 90 frames per second. The devices I was using 20-something years ago was like 300 by 300 and was at 20 frames a second with no shading and no rendering on 3D objects, right? So we've come a long ways. But in the next 3-4 years, you'll get to a point where your eyes cannot tell the difference, physically cannot distinguish the details anymore. At that point, it will just jump, right? And at the price point where it gets to be $100, $200, $300, everybody can afford, just like the phones of today. And that's also happening. So all of these things are getting to kind of converge at exactly the same time. And that's why this particular kind of push or this new wave of VR versus 10 or 20 years ago is different. Because at that point, it was conceptual, right? Now it's real.
Any other questions from the audience? We're running out of time. And I have a question. You are talking about 3D experience. In the future, shall we benefit from a 4D experience? Sensibly smell and vision. So can we taste it and smell it? Will your VR be 4D enabled? And will it have a negative impact on our eyesight? 2 questions. Well, to answer your first question, vision and hearing related. In the VR world, if you include time as a 4th dimension, then we're already 4-dimensional. But we cannot have any more dimensions, addition of dimensions. We're talking about taste and smell. Actually, they're feelings. In foreign countries, they talk about the 5th senses or the 6th senses. But here, we can only deal with 4 dimensions. Your sight or your hearing, they're not dimensions, they are senses. So at the moment, our breakthrough is mainly in hearing and vision, but in the future, we can improve touch, for example, pressure and taste. So we can enrich the sensual experiences, and the VR technology will be more complete by then. At the moment, we mainly focus on vision and hearing. You talk about the possible negative impact on eyesight. I think technological researches are being conducted outside China. Up to now, we haven't received very much negative information about its impact on the eyesight of but it's recommended that children under the age of 13 are not recommended to use VR gadgets. But you all know the negative impact of mobile phones or the alleged negative impact of displays, mobile phones, PC screens on the vision of your children. But it's alleged; it's not proven. And you also talk about the modeling or the simulation of senses. For example, 3D hearing. Many companies are working on this, and also a taste simulation. They might use some chemical approach to replace certain tastes or smells. Or some research institutes, like a professor at MIT, is working on tactic feedback for 20 years. Initial solutions are being developed.
But if we want to achieve really realistic results, it can be quite difficult, because if you want to feel something, then it might be possible, but based on Newton's laws of forces, it can be quite difficult to achieve. I would like to say that currently, the recent development of VR technologies in terms of visual and audio effects, and we can say that if we would like to score it, it can be 70 out of 100. And if we can do smell and taste, then it would mean that the system can be rated as high as 80 or 85. So this is what we shall do in the future, and this is what push the system forward in the future. Please remind the speaker to use the microphone. Thank you. Really interested in the technology that you are talking about. I have one question. You say that VR is the last screen. So for people who have glasses, who have problems with our eyes, do you think we can use VR headsets and systems? If we have serious problem of nearsightedness, when we take off our glasses, we can't really see anything. When we use a microscope, we might not need to use a pair of glasses. Rather than that, we have to use glasses. So, question about people wearing glasses. Can we use VR? Well, first, you don't have to take off your glasses when using HTC Vive. And we can even actually help people with a light case of nearsightedness to use them without having glasses. And we also have a third-party solution to the nearsighted problem. So there are two ways to address that problem. This is a product question, so this is best answered by HTC. One last question. I have a question on VR marketing. We had seen a 10-case best case demonstration. They are more or less about virtual experiences, but in 4 to 5 years' time, when people are familiar with such new virtual experiences, what would brands do to use VR for advertisement? Because currently, you see, we can use banner advertisements on smartphones. So what are the most common ways to do VR advertising, and what kind of new things will VR bring? We are seeing examples of using VR in its most preliminary way because it is a new thing and marketers want to use VR to attract attention. It will help them to do social media campaigns. As technology becomes more sophisticated and more commonplace, its shocking impact on people is going to decline. This would mean that we need to have really good content. It is true that we are only looking at single-person cases of VR, but in the future, maybe we could do something like product placement. We could place things in VR games and VR experiences. And every virtual product and experience can be a part of the virtual campaign. For example, you can swim in a swimming pool of Coca-Cola. You could play games featuring Coca-Cola products, etc. And the sky is your limit. In the VR world, you can do anything that you can imagine. I agree. First, we have to have imagination. Then, we also need to look at the features of VR as a medium. In the beginning, it is a novel thing, and it has this advantage of representing things in a very vivid way. When you look at picture of a furniture, you can't really know how it look in your home or how the colors really look in 3 dimensions. But VR can help you with that. In the beginning, VR would be a novel medium, but in the future, it's going to address many pain points of marketers. For any medium, they would get more and more sophisticated, and we have unlimited imagination. So if we have the imagination from all of you, creative people and marketers, we could have fantastic results because TV has been there for many, many years, and we still have fantastic TV ads. So the medium itself shouldn't be a problem, just provides you with more tools to realize your creativity. You can even combine AI with VR. You may have a virtual assistant that could help you learn how to use, for example, a certain product. This virtual assistant is your virtual teacher or assistant. And I believe that this is going to be a good way for future marketing. This is much more than a banner. Banner is from the last era. Please remind him to use the microphone. Thank you. Please remind him to use the microphone. Thank you. Thank you, Vincent.